evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
And I'm Pauline Verzosa.
The big stories tonight. One senator is pushing for fuel rationing as a way to keep supplies steady while the Gulf War rages on. But some experts are already dismissing the idea as premature.
Is the Middle East crisis ending soon? Well, U.S. President Donald Trump says the war could end in less than a month.
And Cardinal Ambo David speaks to One News for the first time and gives his insights on political dynasties, the oil crisis, and even the West Philippine Sea.
Mag-ration na tayo for non-essential services. Dahil hindi tayo pwede mag-ration kung malapit na maubos yung gasolina natin or maubos yung crudo eh.
Tingin ko po, hindi pa naman ho dapat mag-resort dito po sa a bit of an extreme measure such as fuel rationing.
I have serious doubt the government is prepared or has the ability to do that. I don't think they have the capacity to iron out the mechanics and the details to make it work properly.
Tingin ko po mas kailangan po ata pagtuunan ng pansin yung more of the pricing kesa po yung sa pagkocontrol. Unahin natin yung sa taxation na binibigay talaga nila sa fuel natin.
Senator Win Gatchalian is now pushing for fuel rationing amid a fuel crisis and an extended Gulf War.
This was a drastic measure last implemented during the administration of the president's father, Ferdinand Marcos Sr., during the OPEC oil embargo in the 1970s.
But one urban transport expert does not see the initiative as a timely solution. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes with tonight's big story.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian has called on the Department of Energy and Malacanang to immediately implement a fuel rationing system. Gatchalian chairs the Senate Protect Ad Hoc Committee, the panel formed to develop contingency plans for the looming oil supply shortage brought about by the Middle East crisis. The lawmaker warned that the country's oil stocks are under threat if the Gulf War drags on. The Philippines currently holds only 51 days' worth of oil stocks, and while new supplies are expected to arrive, these may only extend the country's inventory by an additional 10 days, making early conservation efforts vital.
Mag-ration na tayo for non-essential services. Dahil hindi tayo pwede mag-ration kung malapit na maubos yung gasolina natin or maubos yung crudo eh. As early as now, mag-ration na tayo para ma-extend natin from 51 days kung kaya ma-extend yan to another 90 days.
Under Gatchalian's proposal, public transportation such as bus, jeepney, UV Express, taxi, and the essential sectors will be exempted from fuel rationing.
Yung mga essentials, of course, dapat protektahan yung katulad ng mga ambulansya, bombero, police, defense, Philippine Coast Guard. Pero kung mga non-essential naman, pang mga leisure, pwede na tayong mag-ration.
But as to the limit and how the rationing will be implemented, Gatchalian is leaving this to the Marcos administration. Under the national state of energy emergency declared by President Bongbong Marcos, it is possible to implement fuel rationing. In the 1970s, during the administration of President Marcos's father and namesake, fuel rationing was implemented due to the oil embargo by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Then, fuel coupons were distributed at the barangay level. But an urban transport analyst is doubtful if the government can pull off fuel rationing at this time, especially when people now even own multiple vehicles.
Nice to hear, but I have serious doubt the government is prepared or has the ability to do that. I know how it was done during the FM1 years. I experienced the rationing at that time. One, I think you have to rely on digital technology to do it. So far, what I'm hearing from government, like yung approach nila sa carpooling, I don't think they have the capacity to iron out the mechanics and the details to make it work properly.
Santiago also warns about how the public may react to a fuel rationing declaration.
Premature announcement of rationing may just trigger a panic. Besides, our public transport is so bad. We have actually a shortage, a decrease of public transport supply.
Gatchalian's reply to this?
Might cause panic, But kung dumating ang punto na wala tayong papasok na petrolyo, mas malala yung magiging problema natin.
This early, here's what motorists already think of the fuel rationing proposal.
Tingin ko po mas kailangan po ata pagtuunan ng pansin yung more of the pricing kaysa po yung sa pagkocontrol ng consumption ng mga private owners eh. So baka kailangan unahin natin yung sa taxation na binibigay talaga nila sa fuel natin. Yun yung kailangan na pagtuunan ng pansin.
No, dapat ang gobyerno natin ang gumawa talaga ng ng paraan kung paano niyo mapupunan yung pagkukulang. Hindi lang naman sa Middle East nang gagaling yung supply ng gas eh. Di ba? So, basta hindi ako pumapabor doon tungkol sa gusto ipatupad ng gobyerno.
The palace is yet to comment on Gatchalian's proposal. But amid the global oil crisis, some countries are already implementing fuel rationing. Slovenia was the first country in Europe to do so, implementing a limitation of 50 liters on private vehicles per day. Indonesia is also doing the same rationing scheme. In Sri Lanka, vehicles can now only load up to 15 liters. For House Energy Committee member Representative, rationing the country's fuel supply may be too early at this point.
In other countries, yung pong pag-trigger ng rationing po ay ang fuel supply po ay limited na to around 10 to 15 days, no? So atin po understanding, yung pong different types of fuel, mataas pa ho yung level po na meron po tayo. I think, so tingin ko po, hindi pa naman ho dapat mag-resort dito po sa a bit of an extreme measure such as fuel rationing.
But Ridon agrees with Gatchalian. The country needs to start saving on fuel use now. Kapatid mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
Meantime, the Automobile Association of the Philippines does not see fuel rationing as a solution for now. The group says government must focus more on procurement, while stakeholders should take a look at fuel conservation.
Dapat mauna muna yung fuel security natin. Habangan natin yung fuel stock. Kung 45 days at sinasabi ni Presidente hanggang sa dulo ng June, baka 90 days is good security. Pero kung talagang mas maikli yung fuel security mo at nakikita naming levels sa bawat ng klase ng fuel, no? Premium, gasoline, diesel, premium, LPG. Ang stock inventory niya hindi pare-parehas eh. Kasi ang bigger threat is kung sino yung walang laman sa reserve. Siya ang dapat mauna sa optimization and rationing. As the automobile club of the country, our position is to keep we should all do our share to conserve fuel. We should optimize our routes, maximize fuel efficiency, and conserve energy. No, it is not a single solution for everybody. Everyone should do their share.
Well, along with diesel, gasoline, and kerosene, the country's main cooking fuel source has also seen a double-digit increase in its price. For liquefied petroleum gas or LPG, Petron is charging 20 pesos more, while Solane increased prices by 17 pesos per kilogram. LPG firm Regasco, which first increased its price by 20 pesos last Saturday, again added 8 pesos per kilogram today, with another 8 peso hike possible next week. Holy Wednesday's increase has brought average LPG prices to more than 1,500 pesos per 11 kilogram tank. In an interview on Money Talks, Regasco president and LPG Marketers founder Arnel T explained the need to increase prices.
In the past, we are just getting our shipping cost $150 per metric ton. But now, the shipping cost is around $650 per metric ton in the market, in the Asian market. And it is done on a bidding system. So I told the Department of Energy we cannot control our price, but we have to transparently enough to reflect this in our domestic price.
Well, currently, the country has 35 to 40 days worth of LPG. T said they are pushing to increase the supply to 60 days.
It's the last working day of the week for many Filipinos as the Lenten break kicks in. And as expected, many of those spending the holiday in the provinces are flocking to bus stations. At the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange or PTEX, tickets are running out. Most buses to Bicol are now fully booked, especially those bound for Camarines Norte. The LTFRB has approved 1,300 special permits to boost trips.
Taon-taon, no, yung Holy Wednesday, ito talaga yung pinakamaraming pasahero natin every Holy Week season. So inaasahan natin na dadagsain naman tayo ng mga pasahero ngayon. Karamihan sa ating mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na yung mga hindi nakakapag-leave, mga daily wage earners, ngayon pa lang sila magkakaroon ng pagkakataon na magbiyahe. Kaya asahan natin after the working day, 5 p.m. towards the evening, talaga naman dadagsain tayo at yan ang pinaghahandaan natin ngayon.
There are still reports of overcharging at PTEX. The management said they are taking note of the complaints and will immediately report these to the LTFRB. And at bus terminals in Cubao, the travel experience is much breezier. Even walk-in passengers can still secure trips. No issues in fares as well, especially for those who book tickets in advance.
Yan ayos lang kasi tumataas naman ang crude oil. Okay lang naman. Magandang biyahe. Hindi matraffic, maluwag papunta ron.
Wala naman po kaming na-encounter na aberya dito. Actually, ang bilis nga po naming nakadating dito. Kasi if ever po, baka maglakad-lakad na lang po kami. Since baka sobrang mahal din po ng pamasahe sa mga taxi.
And now let's check the situation at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA. Our mobile journalist Arles De Los Santos is there. So Arles, is the volume of passengers the same as last year?
Andito nga tayo ngayon sa Ninoy Aquino International Airport, partikular dito sa Terminal 3, no, dito sa International Departures, kung saan kung makikita ninyo sa aking likuran ay mahaba pa rin yung mga pila. No? Hindi pa natin nakukuha yung pinakabuong bilang ng mga pasahero na dumagsa dito ngayong araw, pero yung base sa kahapon, nasa 142,000 lamang ng mga pasahero yan. No? Mas mababa yan ng ilang libo kumpara sa nakaparehas sa panahon noong nakaraang taon. No? Isa sa mga kapansin-pansin dito ay yung kakulangan ng mga upuan dahil nga sa dami o bugso ng mga pasahero dahil inaasahan nga na papalo ng 1.35 million na mga pasahero ang dadagsa dito bunsod ng Holy Week season. Kaya naman mataas yung seguridad sa buong paliparan at kaninang umaga nga ay nagsagawa ng inspeksyon ang Office of Transportation Security para masigurado na sumusunod ang mga transport operators sa mga itinatakdang seguridad ng pamahalaan. And actually, ipapakita ko sa inyo dito yung harapang bahagi lamang kung nasan tayo ngayon. Ito yung immigration dito para sa international departures at doon sa loob kanina mga bandang hapon napansin natin na mas humaba-haba na nga yung pila. Kumpara yan kaninang umaga na may kahabaan din naman yung pila pero gumagalaw-galaw at least dito kanina actually hanggang dito sa bahagi na ito ay merong mga nakapila para lang makapasok at yung ilan sa ating mga nakausap dito yung dati na parang 4 hours lamang na maaga nilang pagpunta dito sa airport, ginawa na nila yung 6 na oras para nga daw masigurado na hindi nga magkaroon ng anumang problema or aberya at higit sa lahat, hindi maiwan ang kanilang mga flight.
Pero wala namang mga canceled flights, Arles?
Or delays?
Wala pa tayong natatanggap ng mga canceled flights. May ilang minuto na delay dito pero hindi naman ganun kalaki yung mga oras. And luckily doon sa ilan sa ating mga nakausap, in a way, swerte daw sila kasi bukod sa inaasahan nilang on time yung magiging lipad ng kanilang mga eroplano, nag-book na rin sila in advance. May mga nakausap tayo dito, Pauline at Ces, na parang June pa lamang last year ay nag-book na sila ng mga ticket so mas mababa daw yung presyo na nakuha nila kumpara sa mga flights na available ngayon na ilan nga tumaas na daw kumpara sa mga dati nilang trips dahil na rin sa pagtaas ng presyo ng petrolyo.
Actually, Arles, today yan na-implement yung fuel surcharge starting April 1. That will last until April 15. So napansin na ba ng ilang mga pasahero? Ano yung kanilang naging response? Pati na rin ng management, NAIA management, ngayon na sobrang taas na ng fuel surcharge given the conflict in the Middle East.
Tama ka dyan, Pauline, no? From level 4 ay itinaas na ito to level 8 as an interim and temporary lamang daw no, na response doon nga sa pagtaas pati ng mga jet fuel na syempre pangunahing ginagamit ng mga eroplano para makasahing papawid. No? Yung ilan sa ating mga kapatid dito, in a way, hindi raw nila naramdaman dahil yun nga yung nabanggit natin, maaga silang nakabili ng ticket. Yung ilan naman, halos kaparehas pa rin naman daw kung ikukumpara doon sa ibang mga airline or mga mga offices no or nagbibigay nga ng services para sa ating mga kapatid, hindi pa daw nila directly itong nararamdaman. Actually, isa sa mga concern nila ay kung magkaroon nga possibly ng mga delayed or canceled flights sa mga host countries na kanilang pupuntahan dahil syempre hindi pa rin certain kung hanggang kailan nga mangyayari yung sigalot doon sa Middle East na ngayon. Sa ating pag-iikot dito, so far mga overseas Filipino workers pa lamang yung marami talaga or yung mga pupunta pa din doon sa Middle East, yung mga may bukas na syempre na kanilang mga airspaces. Wala tayong masyado or actually wala talaga tayo nakausap na mga magbabakasyon lang doon sa Middle East. Mas marami talaga yung papunta sa Asia, particular sa Southeast Asia at East Asia.
Arles, kanina nag-inspeksyon ang mga otoridad dyan sa airport. Ano ba ang nakita nila? Ano ang assessment nila?
So far, yung kanilang naging assessment naman, no, fully functional naman yung mga binisita nilang mga infrastructure dito or yung mga department kagaya na lamang ng OFW lane and yung OFW lounge na doon namamalagi yung ating mga kapatid na OFWs, no, para nga mabigyan sila ng in a way kagyat na aruga kasi sila nga daw yung mga bagong bayani ng ating bansa, no. So doon tuloy-tuloy naman yung libreng mga pagkain, yung libreng mga inumin at syempre no yung comfortable na kanilang mga mai-stayan habang hinihintay yung kanilang mga flight, no. Ipinakita din dito yung isang tinatawag nga no na parang in a way bagong system na gagamitin nila para nga masigurado na wala talagang makapapasok na any explosives or threats sa ating mga paliparan, no. Pero hindi lang dito sa NAIA mataas yung seguridad, no, gayon din sa iba pang mga paliparan sa bansa. Kagaya na lamang no doon sa Mactan International Airport kung saan isang lalaki nga ang nakitaan ng 13 piraso ng liquid marijuana cartridges at 3 drug paraphernalia. Agad namang inabisuhan yung pasahero at hindi na pinasakay at pinatawag na nga para sa interogasyon ng PNP, no, ng PDEA rather. And then sa Puerto Princesa International Airport sa Palawan naman, isang pasahero na palipad na sana papunta dito sa NAIA ang nahulihan nga no ng 65 live ammunition at 2 magazine ng barel ng M16 na ngayon ay nasa kustudiya na ng PNP. At dito sa NAIA, sa buong sa lahat ng paliparan sa Pilipinas, nasa 200 na yung mga bala na nakukumpiska. 100 dyan yung nandito natagpuan sa NAIA kung saan ayon sa mga pasahero at otoridad, ginagamit daw ito bilang kanilang mga anting-anting, yung ilan naman ay nakakalimutan na alisin ito sa kanilang mga bag.
So Arles, ano bang nakikita mong mga improvement naman, di ba sabi marami nang ginawang pagpapaganda sa ating airport terminals?
Tinanong natin mismo, yung ating mga kapatid na biyahero dito. Ayon sa kanila, mas malamig na daw yung airport kumpara sa mga dati nilang pag-alis dito. Kapansin-pansin din na mas maaliwalas na yung especially yung mga food or cafeteria dito, no. Mas madami na yung food options at bukod dyan, siguro in a way siguro concern natin dito yung kakulangan pa rin ng mga upuan para doon sa mga lilipad no sa mga departure area kagaya kung nasan tayo ngayon. Yung ilan na uupo sa may gilid, yung ilan doon na rin nag-aayos sa lapag, and then kapag yung napupuno na yung mga upuan, wala silang choice kundi either magstay doon sa lapag or pumunta na lamang doon sa mga kainan. Kaya parang we cannot confirm kung naging strategy ba to ng NAIA Infrastructure Corporation na medyo less yung upuan pero maraming kainan para syempre ma-entice yung ating mga kapatid na doon mamalagi, no. Pero bukod dyan, ayon sa ilan, hindi na rin sila ganun nahahassle na magpascan ng kanilang mga baggage kasi isa na lang yung pinapasukan na scan dito pero syempre mahigpit doon dito sa baggage counter para nga masigurado na walang susobra. And then yung iba naman, kailangan paulit-ulit daw na paalalahanan na huwag magdala ng mga gamit na pwedeng dulot no ng aberya sa kanila. Kagaya na lamang ng mga bladed weapon, yung mga flammable na mga liquids, kagaya na lamang ng butane at yung mga alcohol na labis yung dami.
Okay. kung tutuusin, actually, maganda ang sitwasyon natin kumpara sa Amerika, di ba? Doon, talagang parang ilang oras ka mag-aantay, crowded ang mga airports. So, good job. Thank you, mobile journalist Arles de los Santos.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, Cardinal Ambo David weighs in on the current anti-political dynasty measures now in Congress. He says they are simply not good enough. More from that interview with the outspoken Bishop of Caloocan when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to the big story. Overseas, Brent crude fell more than 4% below $100 per barrel in the first trading session of April. Prices dropped on hopes that U.S. troops may withdraw from Iran. Recently, American President Donald Trump said Washington could end its military campaign against Tehran within 2 to 3 weeks, with or without a deal.
When negotiating with them, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. But we're finishing the job, and I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them.
And moving on to another story, the Philippines has welcomed Japanese combat forces in the annual Balikatan. The war games will begin on the 4th week of April. Mobile journalist Amy Atienza filed this report.
Japanese forces are set to participate Balikatan, the Philippines' annual military drills starting April 20. Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr. said in a strat-based forum, this marks a shift for the Japanese from being mere observers to full participants and their return to the country for the first time since World War II.
So this year, 2026, the RAA now allows Japanese troops to come to the Philippines to join the Balikatan exercise. So for the very first time, after a very, very long time, combat troops from Japan, from the Japanese Self-Defense Forces, will be coming here to the Philippines to join us in the Balikatan exercise.
There is no particular information yet as to the number and type of units that will be coming in the country, but drills are expected to be the most extensive to date, especially working alongside U.S. troops. Aside from these, the Philippines is also planning to focus more intently on combating cyber warfare, which was a crucial aspect that emerged from the ongoing Middle East tension.
Dahil bago umatake, for instance, ang Estados Unidos sa Venezuela at sa Iran, isa sa mga unang ginawa nilang hakbangin ay yung tirahin yung networks ng kalaban nila through cyber warfare. That is why it is very important that we develop this capability of defending our resources, our networks.
By the participation of Japanese forces, the Philippines also seeks the opportunity to expand the scope of its defensive operations. Bronner also clarified that these annual military drills are done not just for preparations for war and tension, but also on operations during calamities.
Kasi hindi lamang gera naman yung gagawin natin, we are also preparing for disasters, no? Kasi katulad ng Pilipinas, ang Japan ay parati ring tinatamaan ng mga bagyo, marami silang mga earthquake, no? May tsunami pa sila. And so pare-pareho tayo ng na-experience dito sa Pacific Ring of Fire.
Further, Bronner took note that they have done efforts to address the rising oil prices in the country. For their part, they have already ordered conservation measures on lessening consumption on resources like fuel, water, and power as the impact of the crisis remains uncertain. AFP also sets aside their non-essential activities, including less travels to their offices, to pave way for fuel consumption of their field personnel. He then assured that they continue to conduct their operations in the West Philippine Sea as China may possibly raise more aggression and take advantage of the Middle East war.
Yung mga operations natin sa West Philippine Sea, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yun. Yung pagpatrolya natin dito sa kalawakan ng Pilipinas archipelago. We have to continue doing that. Operations against lawless elements, against communist terrorists and terrorist groups. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin yun.
We continue to uphold the 2016 Arbitral Award under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, asserting our maritime rights through peaceful and lawful means. This approach reflects a deliberate strategy, principled restraint coupled with resolve.
Keio University Professor Ken Jimbo also noted that it is vital for the Philippines to look further into cooperating with more nations in times like these.
We need to look at comparing and synchronizing strategies. So I think the Armed Forces uses the CADC, or the Comprehensive Aquatic Defense concept. I presume Japan has its own.
Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
And we have takeaways from Caloocan Bishop Pablo Virgilio Cardinal David this Holy Wednesday. On our sister program Storycon this afternoon, Cardinal Ambo talked about various issues, including the moral and spiritual crisis in the Philippines. He spoke at length about the need for an examination of conscience and developing spiritual intelligence. That's as the Philippines faces crisis after crisis, from the more recent oil price surge to corruption. Then, he was asked about so-called forces claiming to have the country's best interest in mind.
Navigate between those landmines, you might call them that, landmines where, certain groups identified themselves as the bastion of honesty and integrity.
Good governance. Pero dagdag Cardinal, how do you create an alternative sa puwersa ng kadiliman at puwersa ng kasamaan?
Kung ang pagpipilian ay between kadiliman and kasamaan, parang ewan ko, ibig sabihin wala na tayong pag-asa, no? But I will not surrender to hopelessness and cynicism, no? It is never a choice between two evils, no? I think that's why ngayon Holy Week importante na as Christians we're given the choice of the way of the cross. And the way of the cross for us is really the choice for truth, for integrity, for justice, for sacrifice. It's the way of love.
Cardinal David was also asked about the West Philippine Sea and how Manila should navigate this issue with Beijing. The newest development is that the Marcos administration is now open to a joint oil exploration with China after several encounters at sea with the superpower. That's in light of the world crisis over fuel supply and prices.
Natawa nga ako nung marinig ko itong offer of partnership, joint exploration daw ng oil or petroleum sa West Philippine Sea, no? Nakakatawa at the outset, it's like a very amicable offer, but on the other hand, siguro sasabihin ko, o sige, mag-joint exploration tayo pero aminin niyo muna na hindi ito inyo.
The church leader also had something to say about the anti-political dynasty measures in Congress. He is actually not pleased with how discussions on the matter have turned out so far.
Ang sasabihin ko, I'm sorry, but your best is not good enough. And whether we like it or not, parang ang hirap ang gumagawa ng ating mga batas, sila mismo ay most of them are members of political dynasties, no? At ewan ko ba kailan tayo gigising na ito yung isa sa mga pinakamalaking kalbaryo ng bansa natin. Kasi ito ang dahilan kung bakit nauwi ang ating politika sa politics of patronage. Yun nga, dahil nasanay na tayo sa mga political dynasties, ganon, no? But we can do better than that.
As to the oil crisis gripping the Philippines, Cardinal Ambo David says the government should be in touch with the people's real needs and doleouts could only go as far.
Madali siyang pag-usapan pero yung pakinggan mo talaga yung tinig ng mga driver, mga housewife, mga OFW, lahat ng apektado, mga kapamilya ng mga migrante, yung kamusta na sila? Kaya pa ba nilang pagkasyahin yung kakarampot na kinikita nila? Lalo na in the midst of this crisis, parang wala man lang safety net sa ating gobyerno, no? Parang paulit-ulit na lang yung kultura ng ayuda, bigyan mo ng konting ayuda, ganun, no? Hanggang doon na lang ba tayo? I think we can do better. We can do better than that, no? Siguro kailangan ding mag-examination of conscience sa panahon natin ngayon, sa panahon ng crisis, you know, yung mga biggest income earners na mga korporasyon, hindi kaya pwedeng maglaan sila kahit 10% lang ng kita nila nitong mga panahon ng krisis para may buffer fund tayo na aasahan.
And finally, on a lighter note, the Bishop of Caloocan answers a question on whether or not the new Pope will visit the Philippines. The target is 2028, although not ideal as that is an election year for the Philippines. What is certain, Cardinal Ambo says, Filipinos are very special to the pontiff.
Ang alam kasi namin, si Pope Leo ay pupunta ng Korea. And that's going to be, I think, in 2028, no? Ngayon, syempre, it would be nice kung nasa Asia na siya, if he could swing by the Philippines, ganon. And we sent a letter, sort of communicated na he would be most welcome sa Pilipinas kung dadalaw siya. And I think he is interested in visiting the Philippines pero kung kailan ay hindi pa sigurado. No? Malapit ang puso ni Pope Leo sa mga Pilipino.
Okay. This point, we speak to another man of the cloth. We have Father Jerome Ceciliano, Executive Secretary of the Episcopal Commission on Public Affairs of the CBCP. He is also the Rector of the EDSA Shrine. Father, welcome to The Big Story.
Hi, Ses. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Pauline is also with me here, Father.
Hi, Pauline. Hi, Pauline. Good evening.
Share us your thoughts on Cardinal Ambo's observation. There exists a moral and spiritual crisis in the Philippines.
Well, palagay ko, napakalino nung sinabi ni Cardinal Ambo, and I agree with him. Moral, spiritual crisis. And besides, nung nagkaroon tayo ng issue ng nakawan, corruption, and kung ano-ano pa mga issue, makikita natin yung kakulangan talaga ng moralidad, kakulangan ng spiritualidad. Although, yung iba naman sinasabi, hindi itong solusyon. But then again, we see it as very crucial in trying to, regain our not only composure, but regain our footing in trying to be the best leaders for our country, for our people, and in trying to be, the best people. Yun ang nakikita ko dito, says Pauline.
So, how do we do that, Father?
Well, yung tinatawag nating spiritual crisis, number one is we have to be more cultivating of our relationship with our God. Pinaka-basic nito, says, ano ba yung gusto ng Diyos sa atin? Malino naman yan, huwag kang magnanakaw, huwag kang papatay, huwag kang mangangalunya, basic yan, essential yan. Kung hindi natin nagagawa yan, palagay ko, nagkakaroon tayo ng problemang ganito. O yung moral crisis naman, hindi lang puro legal kasi ang usapin dito, hindi lang pwedeng sabihin natin, sumusunod naman ako sa batas. Hindi lahat ng legal ay moral. So kaya sa usapin ng lipunan o mga nangyayari sa ating bayan, hindi mo pwedeng legalistic lang ang approach o pagtingin sa mga pangyayaring ito. Kinakailangan isama na rin natin yung spiritual and moral facets. So yung morality, ibig lang sabihin nito, gawin mo yung tama at saka umiwas ka sa mali. So ano ba yung tama? May basehan ng tama. Mag-uugat yan sa kung ano yung mga itinuturo sa atin na tama. Binanggit ko na kanina 10 commandments. Binanggit ko na rin kanina iba pang mga batas sa pinagkaloob sa atin ng Panginoon. Siguro kung ang tao ay matututo lang na unti-unti mamumuhay sa ganitong mga tenets, baka nga yung krisis na ito ay hindi mangyayari sa buhay natin.
Kaso, Father, kung ikaw ay karaniwang tao, sumusunod ka naman sa turo ng Diyos, sa 10 Commandments na sinasabi ninyo, yung mga hindi, get away with it, you know? So, it's frustrating. How do you explain that? That, you know, there's impunity. And we cannot seem to be able to do anything about it. So, it encourages people to, I don't know, not follow the tenets because they see that others are getting away with it.
Well, you know, when we have these tenets, it's not only for lowly people. It's actually for everyone, including politicians, including priests. It's actually for all of us. Ngayon, ito lang yan, says, meron tayong panawagan, meron tayong tinuturo. Hindi na natin mabiblame dahil tinuro na natin. Dahil naglakas loob na tayo na iparating sa lahat ng kinauukulan, whether ordinaryong Pilipino yan, o di kaya politician yan, o kung sino pa man nasa pamahalaan, o di kaya pati mga religious, everyone is actually encouraged and at the same time, exhorted, okay, to follow itong mga itinuro sa atin ng simbahan ang galing sa Diyos. Now, kung meron mang lumalabag, that should not be the norm. Ito, yung paglabag na yan, hindi yan yung norm. Dapat makita natin dito na itong mga lumalabag, yung batas na meron tayo, ipataw natin sa kanila, gamitin natin. So dito napapasok din yung mga batas na ginawa ng lipunan o ginawa ng pamahalaan. Ang problema, kaya nagkaroon ng impunity, kasi hindi naman natin nilalapat yung batas, ginagamit yung batas. Merong di umano ay mga nagnanakaw, pumapatay, pero nasaan yung mga magnanakaw na to? Nasaan yung mga pumatay? So doon din, nagkaroon din ng breach. It's not so much about nasunod ba natin yung salita ng Diyos o yung commandments o yung utos ng Diyos. Pero yung pag-apply din ito, hindi rin natin nasusunod. So parang ang responsibility dito ay sa lahat. Ulitin ko, hindi lang yung mga lowly people ang dapat sumunod at yung mga nasa taas exempted sila. Hindi, dapat tayong lahat sumunod.
Actually, Father, yung nakaka-bother din minsan, kasi these individuals, kahit sila in denial sila na immoral yung ginagawa nila, di ba? I mean, some of them still hear Mass, they claim that they're faithful, nagdo-donate naman sila, sinasabi nila na sinusuklian nila yung with kindness, di ba? And they still do good deeds, and yet they're doing these immoral acts. But during this period, Father, ano ba yung mga dapat nila itanong sa sarili nila? How should they examine their conscience? Especially if they've already lost their morality?
Well, I wouldn't even believe, Pauline, na walang sense of morality yan . Ang morality kasi sense of right and wrong. Palagay ko meron pa rin sense of right and wrong yan. Pero kaya naging unbridled yung kanilang, desire to accumulate so many things kasi wala sigurong pumupuna. Ito lang, isang practical na example. Nung nangyari yung PDAF scam, kahit papaano, pinuna yun merong napanagot. Yung intervening years hanggang ngayon, 2025, na nangyari naman itong isang malaking corruption cases, parang medyo humupa ng konti yun habang pinupuna. Ngayong nangyari na, merong pinangalanan, yung iba nakakulong na, parang kumonti yung napapakinggan natin ngayong issue ng nakawan. Parang lang kasi may pumuna. Kasi meron ng ginagawa. So ibig sabihin yung impunity, pwede pala natin itong masawata o di kaya, para mapahinto kung meron talagang pupuna So ang problema, kapag may ganitong pangyayari, hindi natin kumbaga nakikitang dapat punahin ng mga taong ito, papanagutin natin. when the clamor of the people for accountability became so pronounced, mukha yatang natinag din naman ito eh. Kaya yung sense of right and wrong, palagay ko meron sila. Pero kailangan lang talaga, papanagot sila sa mali nilang ginawa.
Kailangan lang talaga igiit na...
Correct.
Opo. Ngayon, Father, gusto po naming malaman, marami pa rin ba ang pumupunta sa simbahan ngayon? Dahil alam nyo naman, ang problema rin ngayon ay masyadong tutok sa social media, sa telepono, sa internet, ang hindi lang kabataan, lahat ng Pilipino. I mean, we're always ranked very high in terms of social media engagement.
Well, the good thing about this, kapag Holy Week says, and Pauline, marami talagang pumupunta ng simbahan. We started last Sunday, Palm Sunday of the Lord's Passion. Ang daming nagsimba. At sigurado ako ngayong Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, sa procession, bisita iglesia, pati sa lubong, marami pa rin mga tao. Ibig sabihin nito, kapag may mga special celebration tayo, commemoration, hindi nakakalimot ang tao sa kanilang spirituality, sa kanilang religiosity. Ngayon, kung meron mga halimbawa na hindi makakapunta, meron silang mga personal reasons. Yung iba siguro may sakit, yung iba siguro ay, wala talagang kumbaga kakayanan na pumunta sa mga simbahan dahil wala silang pera, at kaya ando doon sila ngayon sa social media. But then again, you talked about social media. Hindi namin in-encourage yung mga physically abled, walang sakit, mga bata, na mag-rely lang sa social media. It would still be better for them to go to churches. Kasi para ma-feel nila yung, hindi lamang yung rituals, kundi yung pakikipagkaisa sa kanilang kapwa mananampalataya. That is very important, yung communal aspects ng pagsamba. Kasi ang relationship natin sa Diyos, hindi lang yung personal eh. Ang relationship natin sa Diyos, it entails the community. Kasi doon natin talaga nakukonkretize yung pagsasabuhay natin, relational yon. So hindi pwedeng sabihin ko lang na paladasal ako, pero hindi ka marunong magmahal, hindi ka marunong magpatawad, hindi ka marunong tumulong sa iyong kapwa. Diba? Relational lagi. Kaya kapag ando doon tayo sa simbahan, kita-kita natin yung pakikipagkaisa natin sa kapwa natin mananampalataya.
Just as a final question, siguro, Father, what are some of the sacrifices that ordinary Filipinos can make during this Holy Week period?
Well, ito, kakaiba ito yung sakripisyo dito, minsan nag-i-enjoy tayo sa paggawa ng kasalanan eh. O i-deprive natin yung sarili natin sa paggawa ng kasalanan. Yun ang pinakamatinding sacrifice. Kapag hindi tayo, kumbaga, huminto, parang pinufulfill lang natin yung desires natin, yung mga gusto natin, walang sakripisyo doon. Kasi yung sacrifice, there is an element of, denying yourself of something that you hold dear. Yung kasalanan, aminin man natin o hindi, gusto natin yun eh. Kaya nagagawa natin. Pero ngayon, pinaka-general na lang, umiwas tayo sa kasalanan, umiwas tayo sa paggawa ng masama, iyan ang pinakamatinding sacrifice na pwedeng gawin natin.
Maraming salamat po, Father, for your guidance. We know, this is a busy time for you. And thank you for taking the time to speak to us tonight. Father Jerome Ceciliano of the CBCP. This is a big story on One News. And next, News 5, Von Belinario caught up with Nati Muñoza, the Filipino singer who wowed Simon Cowell and got his golden buzzer. Don't miss that. Stay tuned with us. Welcome back. Here are other stories making headlines this Holy Wednesday, starting with high-level talks between the Philippines and Iran. Foreign Affairs Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro and Energy Secretary Sharon Garin met with Iranian Ambassador to Manila Youssef Ismail Zadeh. That's to discuss securing safe passage of Philippine-bound oil tankers and other ships through the Hormuz Strait. According to Malacanang, Lazaro has requested the designation of the Philippines as a non-hostile country Iran appears open to this. Lazaro will speak next to the Iranian foreign minister who can secure a more solid commitment.
Meantime, the oil crisis is also hurting retailers of highland vegetables in La Trinidad, Benguet. Fewer people, especially those coming from Manila, are traveling north to buy their harvests. Retailers believe it's a domino effect of lagging tourism numbers, with travelers avoiding long trips. Despite these challenges, supply and prices of vegetables remain steady. But if the oil crisis prolongs, retailers fear much fewer buyers, which can lead to oversupply. And in another development, a group of DOH personnel filed a graft complaint against Health Secretary Teodoro Herbosa and 16 other officials. That's over the alleged wastage of 1.4 billion pesos worth of medicines and vaccines. The complaint accuses Herbosa et al. Of failing to distribute life-saving drugs, including HIV medications, psychiatric drugs, and vaccines, leaving them to expire in warehouses. The group claims 68 million pesos worth of medicines have already expired, with billions more undistributed. The complainants are asking the ombudsman to place Herbosa and other respondents under preventive suspension to stop evidence tampering while the investigation is underway.
And in other news, 131 maritime features in the Kalayaan Island Group will soon adopt local names. This comes after President Marcos signed Executive Order 111 on March 26. Malacanang says this will strengthen management of the area and help Manila assert sovereign rights over it. The Chinese embassy is yet to comment on this development.
All right, and now on a much lighter note, in case you missed it, Filipino singer Mati Hunyosa got the coveted Golden Buzzer Award at Britain's Got Talent after his cover of Prince's Purple Rain. It's a full circle moment for the 27-year-old singer who has been living in Glasgow in the UK for 3 years now. And our entertainment producer, Von Belinario, caught up with Mary, and here's a part of that conversation.
Grabe, right now, I'm still a little bit overwhelmed, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm still floating on cloud nine. Everything doesn't feel real just yet. I still have moments where I go back to the old ways of like, no, I want to do something, I want to prove something, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, I've done it. Like everything happened now. It's all right in front of me and it's just unfolding itself. And you're so right. I'm not able to grasp what is actually the gravity of what I did because I'm not home, you know? So hindi ko nakikita yung mga nangyayari. But I'm just so thankful and I'm filled with gratitude right now. And yeah, just I'm a bit overwhelmed, but I'm so filled with gratitude.
I know it was shot last year pa. It was that audition was taped last year pa. But bring us back to that moment. Kumusta yung moment when you were on stage? You were about to sing Purple Rain. You performed. It was a standing ovation. You got the golden buzzer from Simon. Bring us back to that moment, Mati.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, that day is quite blurry in my head. I've been trying actually from October onwards to recall every single detail that I can remember. And some of them are just quite blurry. So seeing it all on TV was kind of crazy. So I remember thinking to myself, because I've been alone here for 3.5 years. That was every time I do something, I try to take a risk or take a chance on performing or whatever, like these small places or big venues, whatever. I've been doing them all alone. I mean, I have my friends who come with me, my roommates or my flatmates or even my fellow Filipinos who are here. But on that day, I was all alone. And I think it made it more evident to me on that day na parang, my gosh, this journey has been going on for 3.5 years. And I've been doing it mostly by myself. And now I'm still here by myself. Actually, that was the whole premise because no one was actually talking to me behind stage. Even, you know how people have families there, yung mga group sila, marami sila magkakasama. Wala akong kausap. I was just on my phone, constantly trying to be like, okay, we're gonna do this, vocalizing on the side, doing my breathing exercises on the floor. Pero no one was there with me. So before I went on, for some reason, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think a lot of it was on earth. How can I say that? I think a lot of it is like some higher power or some external thing that helped me on that day, because I came from London at 4 a.m. to travel to Blackpool, arrived at 9 a.m., did my sound check, and sumalang ako to perform like evening. I haven't had sleep. I came from a 2.5 week musical workshop, super pagod. I was jumping hostels left and right in London, trying to go to auditions, trying to couch surf in my friends' places or wherever I can stay. I was hustling all week long, and even prior to that, I never stopped working here. So for one moment, I thought to myself, everything falls into here. And I felt every single person I've ever met in my life, whether they've left or not, you were all with me. The whole country was with me. You know that whole thing that Catriona Gray said, na, I carry here with 107 million people with me. That thing is real. I felt that in my heart. Na, grabe, right now, I am a forefront runner of the whole Filipino thing, the whole stereotype or whatever they think of us as. I'm going to be a face of that. It didn't really hit until I saw the video, and it hasn't even hit until now, but because I never claimed to be something of a representative. Like, I'm not trying to carry the trophy of anything. I'm just trying to be me. So yeah, but for some reason on that day, everyone was with me. It was crazy. Everything happened, standing O, whatever. I can't even remember most of it because that standing O was actually longer in real life. Like them getting interrupted, it was a lot of that. And of course, they've edited and all that stuff. Pero I remember vividly how overwhelmed I felt. Wow. It was just crazy, honestly.
It's Holy Wednesday for millions of Catholics in the Philippines, and for the faithful who will be staying in the NCR, Visita Iglesia is possible right at the heart of Manila. Our big picture tonight, the 14 interactive stations of the cross in Luneta. It's a modern take on a solemn tradition. There are kneelers provided where devotees can pray and reflect. There's also a drop box for prayers and other petitions, and a so-called encouragement wall to write messages on. A reminder though, it could be a long walk as the stations cover half of Luneta Park. The interactive stations of the cross is open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. until Easter Sunday.
Any plans for the Holy Week?
I will be one of those staying in the NCR. Yes, what about you?
Same.
Yeah.
We will just be staying here. Reg said last night she will be repenting. So during this period. But it's a good time to really reflect, right? Every time it's Holy Week. It's quiet.
It's quiet in Manila. Actually, it's nice in Manila.
It's a good time to
during Holy Week.
To think
you know, I'm gonna miss tossing.
Yeah.
I missed their last day.
That's all right. We'll still see them around. But for tonight, that's it for the big story. We'll be off the air on Thursday and Friday, but we will be back on Monday at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.
Okay, it's a date Monday next week. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night and have a meaningful Lenten break.